Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And
thank you for joining us this morning.
Last night was great. It rained.
Definitely so. Did we not need that cool down?
We did. Waking up this morning to, water on the leaves, droplets and what have you.
Yeah.
Was a much needed change from all the heat that we've been experiencing over the past few days.
Oh my gosh, yes. We are definitely in the midst of April, and I think the heat has been extremely unbearable for many. We do want to remind you, of course, to stay hydrated. But speaking of temperature, Isani, today is a critical day. There's quite a bit to discuss. We know that there are escalating the unions are escalating are moving forward with their plans on industrial action, and there's some things that will take place this morning.
Yeah. Well, remember, we're within the 21-day period, right? Notice has been served on the government of Belize of pending action to be taken by the unions in a trade dispute. Yeah. However, what we've gathered this morning is that the unions are going to be mobilizing to block certain access into the city, all right? And so, that being said, we have mobilized our own teams to go out there and get a handle of what's happening on the ground.
That's right.
And we will be bringing whatever information we get on an update basis. We will be bringing that to you guys in a timely manner.
Of course, and we do have a conversation with the leaders of the unions coming up as our main conversation for today. So we'll hear from them directly. But that's just letting you know a bit of the temperature of what's happening for today. We're going to go through some of our housekeeping, and we're going to start off with our motivation for today. And our eye-opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. When we accept that we always exist in a state of grace, we are able to live our lives more graciously. Grace exists inside of all of us and around us. It is our inner beauty that radiates outward, touching everyone we meet. It is that unseen hand that comes from the divine, raising us up when we most need it. To be able to live in a state of grace is not based on worthiness, nor is it earned through good deeds, ritual, or sacrifice. Rather, it is an unearned favor, freely bestowed and available to all. That is inherent to our birthright. All we must do is open our eyes to its presence, and we will find and experience grace everywhere. Knowing we are graced gives us hope, makes us more generous, and allows us to trust that we are taken care of even when we're going through difficult times. Grace is our benevolence of heart and our generosity of spirit. Grace is unconditional love and the beauty that is our humanity. When we know that we're blessed with grace, we can't help but want to live our lives in harmony.
This is interesting because I think to some extent the idea of grace being an unearned favor kind of goes against what we've been taught all along, right? That in order for one to be graceful or gracious, you would have had to earn certain experiences. You would have had to go through certain events or certain experiences in life that teaches you how to be a graceful person or how to radiate from within yourself some of the things that you've learned along the way, right? And if I can use myself as an example, for instance, my idea of grace and how I go about interacting and sharing that with people may be different from your idea of what being graceful is, right? Even though we may have similar experiences, and even though we may come from various backgrounds that, you know, affect or kind of influence the way we look at how we interact and what the context of graciousness is based on, you know, our one-to-one interaction. For me, Marlene, I look at grace as something that it exists in a room, right? If you walk into a room, what do you bring to the table, or what do you bring to that setting that allows for harmony to be the thing? Because I could walk into a room, and if I'm having a really bad day, then that energy that comes off from me affects the way how I interact with you, and then that throws off the whole idea of being a harmonious existence between us, right? And so when you walk into a room and then you kind of examine, you know, what should I contribute to allow things to be smoothly, that is something that is innate. That is something that comes from within you. You have to be able to see that. And I think that is what kind of makes it different from person to person.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you with the unearned favor part. I think that's what stands out to me the most. I think, you know, we oftentimes tend to be hardest on ourselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're so, think of how many times you've, if you're a religious person, prayed for someone else, if you had positive thoughts towards another person, bestow grace on another, and how often you do it on yourself. And I think that that's one of the things that stands out to me from the eye opener. It is the reminder of, you know, going back to what was called the golden rule many years ago, do unto others as you do unto yourselves. And we always think of that in terms of how negative or how negative we want to be towards another. But it also falls on the opposite end of the spectrum. What you are willing to give to others, are you willing to give it to yourself?
Grace is also a thing of being thankful. When I hear the word grace, right, and when I listen to you reading the eye opener and following along with the words, my mind went on grace before meals.
I know, mine too, actually.
Right, which is a sort of different context, but it speaks to the same thing, you know.
Yeah. It's all primary school training coming back.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's good stuff.
All right, so that's the eye opener for today. And with that, we're going to check in on our weather. We have forecaster Catherine Cumberbatch on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Marlene. Good morning.
How are you today?
Well, I'm right here amongst you all strong young people. I am here. Not going to complain.
And here to deliver the good news that we get just an ever so slight reprieve from the heat.
Yes, but that was only for last night and part of this morning. By afternoon, we expect the temperatures to go up a bit again. No, okay. But it won't be as warm as Saturday and Sunday. That hot weather. Yes.
All right. So tell us what we can expect.
Okay, for today, for the next 24 hours, we expect sunny skies with some cloudy spells today. And high temperatures will range from the 89 degrees along the coast to 96 inland and 88 in the higher elevation. As for tonight, the skies will be partly cloudy to cloudy, and temperatures will be dropping to 78 along the coast, 72 inland, and 68 in the hills. The showers will be generally isolated with a chance of inland afternoon thunderstorms developing. As for right now, the wind is blowing from the northwest at 5 to 10 knots, and later today, the wind will veer to the east and at 5 to 15 knots. And the sea state will be choppy. The outlook for Tuesday and Tuesday night is for partly cloudy skies with isolated showers and isolated thunderstorms.
So the hot temperatures return by the end of the day?
Yes, by the end of the day, the temperatures will build up again. Yep.
All right, and
as soon as we go into the winds veer from that northwesterly, and we are going to that easterly pattern, the winds will heat up again.
All right.
Sorry, the temperatures will heat up
again. That's right. And Catherine, just in terms of the rain that we saw last night, are we going to see that again?
No. As I said, we're going for isolated. What happened, Marlene? Yesterday we had a late season cold front was in the Gulf of Mexico, and ahead of that we had you would say like a trough or unstable condition, and that's what affected the country yesterday evening to last night, bringing us instability and moisture that we had those thunderstorm activity affecting the country, and that moved directly across the country, no? So, but for today, we don't expect to see that significant amount of convection and instability that what happened yesterday.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that update.
Okay, you guys, good, and stay safe.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Such a pleasant voice this morning
Yeah.
to be able to start us off while letting us know that the slight reprieve we got yesterday, that
It's
rain,
coming right
cool
back.
temperatures, it was only temporary. All right, so with the weather update out of the way, we're going to get moving into talk about news, which means the big stories from last week and what we're looking forward to in the week ahead. So let's shift gears to Eye on the News.
So Marlene, I wanted to begin by reiterating to our viewers that as we speak, we understand that movement is taking place from the various unions in terms of blocking the entrance to Belize City. And this is ahead of the work day because most people report to work for 8 o'clock. And of course, with some schools being reopened in Belize City, you would have students presumably from outside of the city traveling in as well. And so this is all part of the actions being taken by the union during this 21-day window. So that's the first thing, and this will be a rolling coverage, if I may, in terms of the information that comes to us. What I want to begin with, Marlene, is the fact that this week will also be very important because later on Thursday and Friday, the 2021 budget that was presented a week ago will be debated, and it will be, for all intents and purposes, a robust discussion on the economic state of affairs of the country and the allocations that have been proposed at this point until it's ratified, the allocations that have been proposed for expenditures in the existing fiscal year, right, the 2021 fiscal year. So that is the first thing. We will expect that a lot of information coming out of what has been presented by the Briceño administration will be dissected on both sides of the floor.
Thursday
and Friday. Yeah. So that's the first thing. The other thing that I wanted to touch on as well, and this sort of ties into the coverage of the budget debate later this week. Last Thursday, the Commission of Inquiry was held from its usual place at the House of Culture. And there were some significant turn of events that took place that morning that culminated with the plug being proverbially pulled from that broadcast. Now, you would recall that it was during the presentation or the address being made by the president of the National Trade Union Congress of Belize, Luke Martinez, where he was essentially criticizing government for what is being described as a hypocritical move that they would be there as a panel investigating the fire sale that took place under the previous administration, but the charge is that this present administration is also guilty of the same thing. Nonetheless, in his address or his statement, we went dark, so to speak. The plug was pulled, and whatever transpired thereafter, you know, has for all intents and purposes sort of been erased from history, as we would say. The point that I'm making here, Marlene, is that on Thursday and Friday, the budget will be debated. And the government went to great pains last year with the government of Taiwan to retrofit the assembly building so that we as the media would no longer have to take in our own cameras to do our own recording. So essentially, we're dependent on the feed that is being given to us. Now, if there is a directive or there's the feeling that, well, we don't want to hear what someone is saying and we could arbitrarily pull the plug, then essentially that muzzles the media, right? Because we wouldn't have our own recording equipment in there to proceed with our business. We would be solely reliant on what has been given to us. Right, so I just wanted to put that there because that's an area of concern that we should look at.
Well, we definitely asked the question on Thursday, who pulled the plug, and I think the interview with the chairman of the commission, he was very clear to say that he gave no directive. He was still at the head table when the feed was cut.
As a matter of fact, he wasn't even aware that he had
and
been
that he
muted.
would never have sanctioned such a thing to take place.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think a part of the conversation that needs additional context is why it's so important for us, especially us, the public, but of course us as the media, as we transmit to you, the public, understand how this was possible and how they're going to ensure that it never happens again. We have no idea what happened in that room following the cut in transmission. Thankfully, for technology, we were able to get at least the recording of what was happening. Not everyone was able to get the same.
Yeah.
But that only shows up to where the speech was cut off. Anything could have happened in that room, any statement could have been made, and we wouldn't be able to know and let you know as the public because we no longer had access. And it is a very concerning situation, one which we still haven't gotten answers to as yet as to how it happened and why it happened and what insurance will have that it will not happen again, especially as you pointed out, that many of government's events of these of late are transmitted through the press office, and especially the House meetings and Senate meetings.
It sets a very dangerous precedence if you ask me, because then what recourse would we have then? How do we gain access to either statements that are being made or other events that are taking place where we are solely depending on one feed to be able to retransmit to our public? So like I said, I just wanted to put that there because it's a discussion that needs to be had. The other thing here, Marlene, is that going into the weekend, we had the athletes who have also expressed their concern with the resumption of operations for casinos and other activities, but sports is still very much on the back seat in terms of, you know, the volleyballers and these other athletes not being allowed to return to at least train, if that were the case, right? And so in speaking with the Minister of Sports as well, he had mentioned that a cabinet paper will be forwarded tomorrow when the cabinet meets to see what recommendations can be put in place to allow for some of the sporting activities to resume. And it brought to mind as well the fact that the Belize Jaguars are participating in the World Cup qualifiers, but we're not having home games here in country. And as a matter of fact, the Jaguars are playing their home games abroad. Although they were allowed or given the permission to be able to they're allowed and given the permission to train here as well. So that is just the other thing that we're looking at. There's a lot happening this week, and we're going to be on top of it.
And we are staying on top of the COVID-19 situation. We know that there has been an increase in the number of cases. We went from seeing 0 to less than 5 cases a day to seeing a bit more than that. It is not an immediate spike, and the end of this week will really give us about that 2-week mark post Easter for us to be able to see whether or not that was a spreader. But clearly there were more cases. There are more cases now than we saw last month, so it does show that there were some people who perhaps became more comfortable and weren't following through on the protocols that they need to. The question as to whether or not, I know some of the athletes got their vaccinations. That was a part of what they were asking for. So that's at least one step in getting them protected and hopefully gets them closer to be able to resume practice as well. But there is a lot going on, and I know that it is in the forefront of everyone's minds right now what's going to happen with the unions and government. And that is the main focus of our conversation for today. We are, in fact, about to get an update, as we noted at the start of our show. The unions are continuing through with their plan of action. The PSU did inform the Ministry of Public Service that they are in a trade dispute, and they have initiated, and the unions collectively have initiated actions to lead up or to continue to show their discontent with this. I don't know if you call it a negotiation at this point, because it seems that the government has said they're going to go ahead with the cut.
Everything has fallen along the wayside. So what we're seeing essentially is a reactionary response to the position that the government has taken. And if we're looking, Marlene, at what the timeline was, it began initially as a consultation, and then it somehow became a negotiation. And then eventually, you know, they're at loggerheads with each other because they don't agree on the way forward and what points should be taken into consideration, etc. And so that brings us to where we are.
Well, it started pre-municipal elections, where there were consultations. There was a team that went out and met with not just the unions, but many other sectors to talk about the state of the economy and to understand some of the suggestions that were taking place. The critical question today is, what are the actions being taken by the unions and what is the end goal? And that's part of what we want to be able to find out. But before we do, we actually wanted to help to keep the public informed as to actions that are being implemented at this time. We know the teachers are organizing at main thoroughfares, and there are some actions being planned. So we've asked the president of the BNTU to get us into the loop as to what's going on. We have Senator Elena Smith with us live.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
All right. It sounds like there's quite a lot going on. You are at the Haulover Bridge.
Yes, we are.
Tell us what's happening.
Well, we are stuck on the bridge.
Describe, okay, this is part of the actions being taken by the union. So we're seeing that vehicles are on the bridge itself and the hoods have been popped. Explain to us, Senator, what has been the move to get to this point?
Well, as you are aware, we have been having our discussions with the government side, and it doesn't seem that we are at a point where we have agreement. And so our teachers are really, and our public officers are at this point in time not satisfied with the way how things are going. And this is just one way of them showing their dissatisfaction with what is going on.
So you guys have agreed that you will block all the main entrances to Belize City as part of this particular move. Is this a unified front being taken in terms of perhaps other unions joining in on this kind of action?
Yes, we do have the public service union which will be joining us as well in different areas. So it's not just the teachers, but we do have the other unions joining us. My apologies for the background noise.
That is okay.
Well, I wanted to ask, we do see some police presence there. Tell us what's happening there. What has been the approach by the police?
Well, they are assisting the young man in front of us with his vehicle, trying to get him to be able to start so we can move.
Okay.
Senator Smith, we do understand that this is a part of a coordinated action by the unions to show your discontent with the ongoing conversations. And it is, as you said, it is being, should I say, disguised as mechanical problems when in fact it is an impromptu protest.
Well, as you are aware, Marlene, all of our activities are out in the public.
Yes.
So there's no reason for us to be hiding what it is that we are doing.
Yes.
You know, it's our teachers are not happy, our public officers aren't happy, and so, you know, we have to find ways and means of showing our discontent. We know that the situation right now with COVID, you know, there are certain things that we would have been able to do normally that we can't do now. So, you know, there has to be other other ways and means of showing our dissatisfaction with what is going on.
Are you concerned of this situation escalating? What's the communication that you're putting out to your teachers, at least across the country? Because this isn't only going to happen at the entrances of Belize City itself.
Well, Marlene, our teachers have never been violent. We've always protested, and we've always done so, you know, in a peaceful way. And so we don't expect, you know, anything to escalate in terms of violence or so, except if there would be others who would, you know, come and join us. But we have never been a violent group. We have always done our protests peacefully. We are known for that, and we will continue to do so.
Are you in this moment trying to send a message to government, or are you trying to garner public support?
I would say both. Both, because a lot of the people who, you know, who we notice might not be supporting us. We note that for some reason it's usually people who are supporting for the government, you know, who may not be wanting to understand what it is that we are doing or why we are doing what we are doing. And so, as I said before, our teachers are really not satisfied with the way this is being handled, and this is their way of trying to address the matter.
Senator, has there been any move on the part of the government or from you guys collectively to come back to the table and see what can be done? I mean, I know the budget has been presented. It reflects the 10% cut in wages, but if there's any last resort measure or perhaps an opportunity for you guys to be able to sit around the table and work this matter out, has there been any move on either part?
Well, we are hoping. I mean, you know, you have to always be hopeful. We are hoping that can happen. You know, that there is going to be a recognition that what it is that we are doing right now might not be, and when I say we, I mean the government, what it is that they are doing right now is not the best way to go right now, and our teachers are really and truly not satisfied with what is going on. And so until it is that our teachers feel that they are being treated fairly, then we will have to continue to do our actions. I mean, you know, this is not just about a salary cut, you know, because as we have been saying, a cut is going to affect, you know, not just us as teachers, but it's going to affect several other groups of people. But it's also about good governance. If you are coming to me and you are telling me that I'm going to cut your salary, then you have to be showing me that you are able to do things differently, that you are able to ensure that there's a transparency in what you do, there's accountability in what you do, and we have not been seeing that right now. So this is also about good governance. We have to ensure that the proper things are put in place in terms of legislation to ensure that 5 years, 10 years down the road, we don't come back to the same point. It cannot be that we continue to act and we continue to fight with governments for the same thing over and over, and we don't see a change. And every time it's time for them to get elected, you know, you see them come with this platform of good governance, but when they are elected, then nothing happens. So there has to be a change, and our teachers are saying, listen, we are not going to give up this good governance, this UNCAC matter. We will not give that up any at all, and we will continue to fight until we are, you know, satisfied that what has been happening and what is going to happen is for the best interest of everybody.
So I see people walking across the bridge there. Clearly they must need to get to work. Senator Smith, do you understand that perhaps in your attempt to show your discontent that you will actually lose more public support by blocking off access to all the main thoroughfares?
Well, Marlene, this is just a short period of time that we are going to be here. This is nothing compared to what we are going to be suffering in the long run. 15 minutes is not a long time. It really isn't. And so we hope that, as I said, the public understands that this is not just about us. This is about this entire country. Because if we don't have good governance, it affects all of us. If our salaries are cut, it will affect all the small business places that we continue to support as teachers and public officers.
How do you feel as someone who in the past have stood up against the previous administration and you were able to get the support of the current Prime Minister who was then in opposition, do you feel at all betrayed as a union that you know, you would be at odds over this particular matter? Are you with us?
It's quite disappointing. It's quite disappointing because, as you are well aware, every time our teachers are out with these kinds of actions, you always have the opposition joining us, and you always hear them talk about, you know, what they will do differently when they get into power. But whenever that change happens, you see more of the same. So walking with me, telling me that you're about good governance, you know, we heard about cutting off the head of corruption, you know, we heard about this new change that we are going to be doing things differently. What have we seen? I don't see where we have seen a huge difference from what has been happening to what is happening right now. Yeah. The only difference has been that there are different persons in there. But some of the same things happening, you see, you know, where these contracts are being, you know, given out, you see the purchasing of vehicles, the rental of properties for office spaces. You see some of the same things happening that the other government, the other party when they were in government did. So when are we going to be able to make that change that we need to ensure that this country does better? That is what we are fighting for.
Senator Smith, this is one of the things, one of the actions planned over the next week or so. What is the end goal here?
The end goal is to get the government to understand the importance of implementing these good governance issues, and for them to actually do so. But it's also for them to understand that, listen, the manner in which you are going about trying to get these funds is not the best way to do it. We have shared with them revenue enhancement measures. Let us go out and let us do those. Before you come to us and say we'll cut your salary when we are already you know, living off a small salary in terms of what we must do out of our pay as teachers. Find other ways and means of addressing that. When that has been done and you have done your best, then you come and talk with us. But don't let this be your first option to say, listen, we are short, and so the only thing that we can think about is to cut your salaries. That's not fair. So there has to be another way of them being able to do this.
Now, you had a meeting with the government representatives on Friday. What happened?
Well, unfortunately, we had received a letter, and the letter was even worse than the discussions, because in the discussions, we were looking at a 10% cut across the board. The letter that we received, you know, went all the way up to 12, so it was 8, 10, and 12. So that just, you know, made matters a bit worse. Yeah, people are saying, listen, you know, you went from 10 across the board to. Yeah. Say again,
okay, explain to us how it went from 10 to 12%. What's the rationale?
Because initially they gave us a 10% across the board cut. And so that had been the discussions all along. And then when we got the letter said that they were, in a sense, doing a tiered approach. And so it would have been 8% for some, 10 for some, and then 12 for others. But you have to remember that 8 and that 10 and that 12 comes with an additional 2.5 that you would have received as increment. So that's a change that we saw. Never in all of our other meetings did we discuss anything, or were we presented with anything above 10. It was always 10. And then suddenly now, you know, the night before, you're going to tell us, well, okay, this is what we are giving you, 8, 10, and 12, and you must just sit back and you must just take that. It's not going to happen that way. Our teachers will not accept that just like that. So we have already said no to the 10. Why would we say yes to 12?
So the conversation seems to be fixed on a salary cut, and now you're talking about different percentages along the way. Senator Smith,
It has been, Marlene, we have posed to them the cut, but as well, beside the cut, we have also presented to them the good governance issues. So it's not that those are just being added; those were there from the beginning. We continue to clamor for these good governance matters.
Okay, so let's segue a little bit here. You are at the Halover Bridge as we speak. You have thousands of teachers who are watching. You have the public officers as well who are a part of this. What is your message to them from where you are this morning?
My message to them is simple. We shall not be moved. That is the message. We are not going to move away from our actions until it is that the government can come to the table and have some serious discussions with us. And when I say serious, I'm talking about considering all of the matters that we have placed before them in terms of how this cut is going to affect our people and how it's going to not only affect us but our students as well. A lot of our teachers use their own salaries to purchase things for the classroom, to help their students, to feed them, to buy them books. A lot of them do that. So how is that going to affect what happens in the classroom? We are not thinking about long term, we are thinking about instant gratification. We need the money now, so first to get the money to cut your salary and that's it. But we are not seeing the full picture of the after effect that it's going to have on these teachers and public officers. This is not going to be something easy.
In the context of the phased return to the classrooms, right? If you allow me to go in that direction quickly, we've seen that there are schools that were preparing all of last week for classes to resume today. And the government or whoever the powers that be are would not have given them a budget to be able to prepare the classrooms and retrofit accordingly. Speak to us about that in the context of this proposed 10%, because you're looking at sacrifices that are continued to be made, but it comes out of the pockets of the teachers.
Exactly, and that is the point that we keep trying to make, that we are not considering what other areas we are affecting when we do this. Because you are telling me back to school, you are telling me, that we have to have our classrooms clean and we must sanitize every so often. But how much of that must we provide? Because even if it is that initially there's an amount provided, what happens when that runs out? Nobody can tell us what happens when that initial supply runs out. It simply means that teachers will have to bear that burden. So we are going back to school. We should be reporting to school, and whatever the school has at this point in time will be used. And when that is finished, then that's it.
Senator Smith, we know the police presence is building in the area, and as I mentioned earlier, there are people who are walking over to work. I imagine those people right now are definitely not on the side of the unions. What's your message to the public? There's a lot of people right now who would typically support you under other circumstances and did when you took your 11-day strike, the historic strike back then, that are now saying, I'm facing a cut, I'm unemployed, and now here is this inconvenience. What do you say to them this morning?
Well, Marlene, some of those same persons who have been unemployed are our family members as well. Some of those same persons are our colleagues' spouses. So it is not that these persons who are unemployed are persons who are alien to us. So we also have to be helping to support these persons who have lost their jobs. They are our family members as well. And I think that is a point that we keep missing, that people keep missing, because they tend to look at it as these persons who have been unemployed, that these persons, are nothing to us, or we have no connection to them. That is absolutely not true. A lot of the unemployed are our relatives, and we have to be assisting them. So we understand that right now people would be, they might not be happy with what is going on right now, but at the end of the day, this is not just for us. This is for our country. This is for the younger people coming up, Marlene. If nobody knows how to stand up now, what will happen 5 years, 10 years down the road? It has to be that we are willing to take a stand, and we must take that stand irrespective of our political affiliation. Because this is not about your party whether your party is in or not. This is about what is best for the entire country. And I think we have to get to the point where we start to put politics aside when we look at these national issues, and we look at these matters, we deal with them in a manner that we understand the effect it will have on the country. Leave politics aside and look at the bigger picture.
And in the conversation on Friday, because it is one of the parts that is very often missed in the conversation, you are discontent with the current proposed salary cut, but you're also asking for definitive actions to show that this administration takes good governance serious. Where was that discussion on Friday? And are there moves to be able to move to implement some of the legislation that you've asked for?
Well, we asked the team on Friday, for them to look at shortening the time frame that they had given us. The initial time frame that they had given us was anywhere between 3 to 8 months for having a draft. And we are saying, or people are saying that, listen, if you are really serious about good governance and about this, these matters of UNCAP, then you would find ways and means of having those drafts earlier. And so that is what we are expecting, that we would be able to get from them an earlier time frame as to when they'll be able to have those drafts available, so that we can look at them, because it was promised that it would be shared with us, that we can look at those drafts, and then from there we those head for approval. So we are hoping that they would go back and reconsider, and we would be able to get those draft legislation much earlier than they have been saying to us in the last few meetings.
Now, you said that this is supposed to be a short demonstration. I know the original plan was for 15 minutes. Does it seem like it's going to go longer than that?
No, we should be heading out now. I think we had that matter resolved, and so we should be heading out now.
Have you had any feedback from your colleagues from other locations across the city prior to joining us?
Not as yet, no, not as yet.
All right, Senator Smith, the unions, the PSU, the BNTU decided to make a statement today. You pretended to have mechanical problems on main thoroughfares to block off access for 15 minutes. The goal here was to show your discontent. What happens next?
Well, I'm not going to say that we pretended, Marlene, because I don't know what happened to the young man in front of us, but as I said, the public knew that we would have been out here. So this was no secret. People knew that we would have been out here. In terms of moving forward, we are supposed to be sending a response to the government today, based on that letter that they sent to us last Tuesday, sir, I think it was last Tuesday. So the joint unions would be, getting together to pen that letter to send the response today as we have been asked.
All right, so is this it, that the car has been fixed at this point?
Yes, we are now heading off the bridge. Traffic is moving.
All right. Well, Senator Smith, I'm pretty sure that people heard you loud and clear this morning. In fact, we do have a subsequent conversation with the union leaders and the Nurse Association, but we had to jump in on that action there, at least at one location at Haulover Bridge. Was it countrywide, these types of actions?
Yes, countrywide.
All right, yeah, we're seeing some other images. That's by Chetumal Street there, where there are more mechanical actions being reported.
Yes.
All right. Well, Senator Smith, we'll be checking back with you in just a few in our conversation with the head of the unions. But thank you for walking us through what was happening there.
Thank you, Marlene. Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you again in just a few. And we're shifting over now to Paul Lopez, a reporter for News 5. And he is live at the Chetumal Bridge. No. Oh, we lost the transmission. But we will have, of course, more for you later on. There you go. It was a live eye on the news for this morning.
An extended one.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and quickly wrap this up and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to start a conversation with the head of the unions, and the Nurses Association of Belize, where we have an extended conversation now about what is the current status of the negotiations on salary cuts and increment freeze and the plan of actions. So please stay tuned.
We're using Smart Elite VoIP calling plan. We use it interbranch, we use it to call outside, and we also use it to call international. It's far cheaper than what we used to have before. Our new PBX box is new. So the PBX is very good because I can call to my Sartaneja branch, I can call to my Kikaka branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBS. Actually right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. There's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. But that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members, since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Wow.
Oh my God, she drunk. No hurry, I got this. Goodness. Oh my gosh, it's Stig the Artist.
Being the hardest. Stig the Artist. But you had way more than 2 drinks tonight, love, which is a legal limit to drive. What about you? Can you drive?
Well, I was drinking soft drink all night, so I can drive her home.
Aw, thanks, Brie. Of course, Tricia, you know I got you. You're my girl.
That's what I like to see. Friends don't let friends drive drunk. Cause you can't replay in a real life. Stig says so. Can't replay in a real life.
And welcome back. We are about to begin our first conversation of the morning, and we are continuing with our coverage of what's happening with the unions. That being said, we have with us the president of the Public Service Union, Gerald Henry. We also have with us Chief Magistrate Sharon Fraser. She's the president of the APSSM. Good morning, folks.
Good morning, Isani. Good morning, Marlene.
Let's go over what has taken place since Friday. You guys were able to meet and you're in the process of formulating a response to whatever was put forward in your last discussion. Give us a brief recap of what has taken place since.
Well, we had to respond to the government in relation to, based on not this very last meeting, but the meeting before, as to what our positions were, based on recommendations that they would have made. Before we were able to meet again, we received a letter dated 13th of April, in which it was basically a legal letter, a constitutional letter, I would say, where in fact we were told that the Minister of the Public Service was now prepared based on the Constitution to advise the Governor General to set our salaries, which by law he is empowered to do. But in fact, I can speak from my perspective, I found that very, a little disturbing, given the fact that we were in negotiation. Why it is you are going to tell me, oh, the law empowers me to do this, when in fact we are at the table, we're sitting down, we're trying to work out as best as we can how to move forward, given the financial state that our country is in. Of course, I have to admit to you that in Friday's meeting, the minister sought to clarify that the letter was not put to threaten us, but that in fact just to inform us.
Which minister was that?
Of the public service,
okay.
Henry Charles, Honorable Henry Charles Osha. But of course, this letter didn't come just like that. I'm going to jump out on a limb here to say that it came as a result of a letter that the PSU received from the Minister of Labor, where he basically was saying he's yielding to the Minister of Public Service based on the notice of a trade dispute that the PSU would have written to them. And I guess Brother Henry can speak more on that issue. But it's not accidentally that we received that letter. It was by design. I must say a very strategic designed letter. And unfortunately, it would seem to us that whether we agree or not, it is going to happen. And in fact, there is a constitutional provision that they're now leaning on to say, well, it no matter if you don't agree or not agree to the 10%. I can do that because Section 106(3)(c) says I have the authority to inform the Governor General after consultation to fix salaries and allowances, basically for any persons being paid out of the public purse. So we went there, still hoping that in fact we would not have had to reach to the stage that we are slowly, but sorry, not slowly, that we seem to be approaching, that the country really don't need. But if it is that it is a must, then it is what it is.
If I could just interject there, allow us some insight into that meeting on Friday. You know, after the actions that we saw early Friday morning, where there were protests in the streets, or picketing, I should say, taking place, many assumed that the government representatives that came back to the table were perhaps trying to work out a solution with the unions. From what you were explaining, it sounds more like an ultimatum. I may be mistaken, but allow me to understand from your perspective in that meeting, is there room for a compromise to be made?
Not about the salary cut. Not about the salary cut. That seems to be fixed in stone. No, what did not seem to be fixed in stone was the percentage. Because while initially we had talked about 10% across the board in past discussions, in that letter, the minister was proposing an 8, 10, and 12% depending on the salary bracket that you are in. So that to save 60 million seemed to be non-negotiable. And now, based on the letter that we received, it would seem to suggest that that is the position. It is just how that government received that $60 million.
How do we find equity in what is being presented between the 8, 10, and 12? You're mentioning it's based on the salary bracket, but is that equitable in terms of its proposed distribution?
Well, as it relates to the union I represent, the answer is no. We had already proposed, and they accepted the proposal, that in fact we look at exempting those workers in the lower tier, lower bracket, income bracket, and so that the persons making 12,000 and under, it was proposed and accepted to be exempted from any pay cut.
Yes.
Thereafter, we were saying, okay, fine, let it be equitable. I will tell you that based on the poll I did, my members, who will be the ones affected if it is they decide to impose the 12, have said to me they absolutely cannot afford it. It is hard enough for them to have worked out how to deal with the 10% cut if we had reached that was the ultimate decision. And now to tell them that they need to find 2% more, maybe to your listening audience out there might say, well, it's just 2% and you all are making big money. That is not the point. The monies and the salaries, the emoluments that the members are making, they would have made commitment based on what they are making. And you can't look at me and look at somebody else and say, oh, because she's making what it is they would have put out on the social media about me, that I can afford a 12% cut. You don't know what my responsibilities are, what my commitments are. And so that I can tell you for a fact that members of APSSM have told me that they had difficulty with the 10. And no, because APSSM members were not only just sacrificing or to sacrifice 10. Remember that my members are also sacrificing 25% of an allowance and the freezing of increments as well. So now to ask them to take another 2%, no,
well,
it's not.
And I want to be fair. You have made this very same statement before clearly that the idea of those who earn more take a bigger cut was something that, at least for the APSSM, was not something that you would support. Let me just bring it back to what's happening this morning as well. We just saw the closure of main thoroughfares across the country. The teachers and the public service unions went out and they had mechanical problems and blocked traffic for 15 to 20 minutes. Now, on Friday, we saw picketing, and I know there's a course of action as to how you're going to move forward. Let me just get you first, Sharon. Is APSSM a part of these actions, and do you support them?
I will tell you that while it is you might not see APSSM members out there, it is not that there is not support and solidarity for the actions that are being taken. As a joint union, we have not yet met to decide on the course of action that is going to be taken as far as the 3 unions are concerned. So I don't want to give people the impression that, in fact, we are not in support. It is that clearly there will be some actions that we can be a part of, and there will be some actions that it might prove a little bit difficult for us to partake in. But it's not that we are not in support. We are still here. We are still saying that we are still within the joint unions, that we still have the same position as it relates to all of those points. While we might vary just a little bit, it is not a fundamental difference in where we are, at least as it relates to the cut, because that is the only area that there was a little variation, and the variation was not that we were saying yes. It was that we were saying no, but it just was not an absolute no. That, in fact, want certain things, and I guess it amounts to exactly what the members of BNTU and what the members of PSU is saying, because they are saying no, yes, absolute no, at least at that time, and then wanted to look at the good governance issue. We were saying no, unless you put in the good governance issue. And one might say, well, what is the difference? Well, there is a difference, because one is saying no, absolutely, no matter what you do. We can't afford it. Right? My members can't afford it too, but they were saying that, okay, fine. If it is this is being done, we're willing to make the sacrifice. Right? As responsible leaders, and very well knowing the responsibility and the financial position that the government are in. Remember that it is these same HODs and senior managers who are seeing the figures, who are seeing where exactly we are. So, Marlene, we are in support. It is just that, like I tell you, we are supposed to meet as joint union to work on how we are going to proceed forward with joint participation in certain events and activities.
So the offer on the table from the government side is 8%. Well, first of all, people under 12,000 are still exempted? Yes or no?
Yes.
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 Then the lower bracket gets an 8% cut. Then you have...
That is 12 to 20.
Yeah, 12 to 20.
12,
Then 10% cut for those who are 22.
Over 20 to 40,000.
And those over 40,000 would face a 12% cut. That's what was proposed to you on Friday.
Yes, ma'am. And
if you don't accept it, then they can go through a constitutional change to be able to allow for fixed salary rates. Let me get...
Well, it's not a constitutional change. It is just depending on a provision within the Constitution, which is Section 106(3)(c), where it empowers the minister responsible for the public service to advise the government on setting salaries and allowances for any person who is paid out of the public purse.
Okay. Let me get President Gerald into the conversation for a moment. Let's hear from you. We know that the Public Service Union was in fact a part of the demonstrations this morning. You have issued your issuance of a trade dispute to the Ministry of Public Service. Tell us what your members are saying as of today. Gerald?
Hi, good morning again, Marlene. Thanks for that question. Our membership, we took a poll over the weekend, in fact, several polls, because we have the number of public officers who wanted to, of course, be updated on this issue. And so we had to do 3 separate meetings in order to capture as many public officers as possible. We presented to them what took place in the meeting, as Sister Fraser mentioned a while ago. And we also ensured to take a poll to get their direction on how they want the Public Service Union to proceed. And the results were quite overwhelming in terms of the fact that we cannot and we will not take whatever percentage cut for salaries. And similar to Sister Fraser and her membership being at the head of these departments and seeing what is happening within these departments in terms of the numbers, as I have always stated, our public officers are the ones who are actually on the ground. We are seeing where there is a difference, a conflict between what the government is saying, the narrative that the government is putting out there, and what they're actually doing, right? So it's a case of they're saying one thing but doing quite the opposite. This, of course, will cause serious trust issues, and as a result of that, we don't believe that the government is serious about the good governance issues. Yeah, we don't think that they're serious about implementing UNCAC, which is something that we have been fighting for quite some time now. That has always been a topic on the table. And our public officers have simply said that we have gotten enough of the politicians coming to sacrifice us from the very beginning. And they're not even interested in trying to be creative with how they bridge the gap, the financial gap. There are 2 sides of the budget. There's the expenditure side, there's the revenue side. Yeah. The government has not spoken much about revenue at all. And we are seeing the numbers where you have a few persons owing millions and millions of dollars to the government and the country of Belize. We, the public officers, see this. We have that information. And so we are saying, man, you can go and get that money from these firms, from these businesses, from these individuals, and you would not have to come to us. In fact, Marlene, I can tell you guys that if it is that the government goes and collects these outstanding taxes that are owed to the country of Belize by these various businesses and individuals, the public officers would actually get a raise. That's how terrible it is. What do you that's really and truly how terrible it is. The amount of money that is out there not collected is unbelievable. And we see these numbers, okay, right? So it is extremely hard to even think about getting public officers to accept a salary cut right now when they are seeing these amount of money just being left out there and no serious interest to collect them.
Let's stick up in there, Brother Henry. What do you believe is the reason why perhaps government is reluctant to go after these private businesses and what have you in terms of revenue collection?
Well, I think it boils down to the fact that oftentimes the private sector is the one that sponsor the government or the politicians campaigns. And so, well, they have to return the favor to these individuals, right? So it's just a case of hand wash hand, right? And that's the position that we are now stuck in the middle, and we are the ones who are being sacrificed. These individuals are oftentimes the ones who make the most money. They have the most lands out there. They have thousands of acres of land, and they're not paying their land taxes. When we owe the government income tax, a letter is sent to us quickly. I could owe government $200. A letter will come to me within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, and what they will do? Garnish my salary and take it out. So why can't actions be taken against these persons who owe millions of dollars, right? Why aren't they being sent to court to pay up these outstanding balances that they have?
Let me just jump in here.
Can't stand for that.
I want to jump in here because this is where I think it becomes very convoluted. We hear from the unions. In a prior interview, I know probably around the time of elections or immediately after, I had asked the PSU if you were willing to take a salary cut at some point in time, understanding the economic situation, and your answer was yes. Now, we are hearing several messages from the unions. We're hearing in some cases, no, we want no cut. We're hearing in some cases, we're open to a cut, but there are certain conditions we want. We hear of good governance measures, but very limited specifics as to what good governance measures you want to see in place. And then you bring in issues like lack of innovation or tax collection. Now let's look at the situation for what it is. It is an immediate solution that has to be sought. Can we agree that that's what is happening? There has to be an immediate solution to address the continuous or the growing debt from being able to meet the public wage bill. Now, understanding that some of these actions, as you're saying, and I'm sure you've heard it from the government as well, will take time. In other words, you can't collect all the back taxes. You can't move towards a new industry within the next few weeks. But you can be able to cut down on what you're spending by cutting down on that wage bill. What is your counter offer or counter proposal for immediate and urgent actions?
Yeah, while that may be true, or that may be the narrative that the government is putting out there, then we and if it is that it is so critical for them to take this action right now, then how do they answer the and respond to the fact that they keep adding to this wage bill, right? If things are so drastically disastrous in terms of the finances of the country, then and public officers keep seeing that we have this difficulty in finances and so on, but the staff is continuously growing, and you are adding persons who are not, according to what we know, are not contributing much to the public service. Then we have an issue, and these taxes can be collected. We may not collect all at once, but at least make some move in the direction to start to collect them. They have not done anything at all. We have not seen any other forms of bridging the gap coming from the government. And this is what we were looking at in terms of at least let us discuss what other means they can take to get the $60 million.
All right, let's shift over for a second. We are as well joined this morning by the president of the Nurses Association of Belize. Let's bring some clarity to this situation. The Nurses Association of Belize is not a part of the joint unions negotiating team. However, nurses or nurses who work in public health fall under those who would be possibly taking a salary cut if it goes through. So with that, we have the President, Darrell Spencer, as well with us. Good morning. Daryl, you still with us?
I'm right here. Good morning, Marlene.
Good morning, Daryl. All right, so let's just get started with the nurses' perspective here. Last week you said that the Nurses Association has decided that you're in full support of the dissent by the unions, as well as you plan to join in on the plan of action that they have in demonstrations. How did you come up with this position?
Well, first of all, good morning, Belize. Good morning, Marlene. We did do 2 surveys among nurses across the country via our association chats that we set up. We also held a meeting, and those nurses who wanted to participate did. So that is where we got our information on the position of the nurses across the country.
Now, what percentage of nurses fall under the government system?
I don't have an actual figure, but it's
an estimate.
All around 75–80%, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
That's private and public. Okay. Of the total amount of nurses working, about 75% of them are under the government system.
So aside from the fact that these 75 to 80% of nurses are also facing a wage reduction, this is also in the context of you guys being promised that you would have actually been remunerated or gotten a raise, if that were the case, based on the work that was being done during the full brunt of the COVID pandemic, correct?
Correct. Very, very, very correct.
Talk to us about that. Yeah, expand on that for me.
All right. So first of all, we must say that prior to COVID, nurses were already under a strain when it comes to personnel coverage on the wards and in the different hospitals, in the villages, wherever nurses are being paid to provide a service.
Yeah.
So we were already short. When COVID started, came to being, obviously, then we had to stretch even more. There was, at that point, before COVID, let's cover that clearly, pre-COVID, there was a desperate call to do overtime to provide the additional staff for coverage.
Yeah.
So nurses were working about average 40 hours per month per staff, and that was still short. So COVID happened or started, and we were actually promised by the then ministry, the then government, that there would have been a little bit of subsidies coming our way to help us to alleviate some of the hardship that nurses and the general health population were facing, where we have nurses, some of them, I wasn't a part of that, but we had some nurses who had to take up second residence to protect themselves and their families, nurses that will have to go board somewhere other than their houses. We had people where they had to provide new babysitters and things so that they, to protect their families. So on that basis, we had discussed giving the nurses something towards alleviating some of that hardship that we were going through for now over a year.
Okay, so let me put some context to that as well. So you had the COVID unit, and in speaking to the members of the COVID unit, they were basically sequestered from being at home with their loved ones as well. Was this an expense that was being incurred by them, or was this something that was taken at the administrative level to ease what those expenses would have been?
All right, so as I said, there was, first of all, we tried to insist of the government, of the ministry, to make this thing a national effort by the ministry. The Minister of Health and the Prime Minister at that time just dragged their feet out, and so some nurses, some allied health personnel had to take that burden up on their own. I mean, at the end of the day, if the ministry does not take up its responsibility, it is yours to protect your family. So some staff actually pulled together those in the COVID units and they rented houses, 3, 4, 5 bedroom houses, whatever they could afford, no? So that they sequestered themselves from their family to afford to work and help the country of Belize in the COVID unit.
Tara, let's find, you know, as I said earlier, the association is not a part of the joint negotiating team, but yet you've taken the decision to come out as the head of the association to speak of your discontent and your members' discontent with the proposed salary cut. What are your options on the table? We see the union starting to take actions to show their discontent. There was picketing on Friday. This morning there was a blockage of the main thoroughfares. The teachers union as well as the PSU have coordinated those actions. What's your membership asking you to do?
Well, the membership is demanding that we present the public with the scenarios of what could happen, how the nurses can participate. And I would want to ask the public to bear with us. Yes, they may see the nursing population cannot or should not go take strike actions, but we must remember that prior to COVID, we already had a short. We had to be working long hours of overtime. Now with the COVID unit, it's even more hours of overtime that aren't being paid. So the first stance, remember, in an industrial action is that no, we can participate by not participating and not participating in additional hours of work. So if all nurses will take the stance of working their 40 hours per week, that simple act will put a severe strain on the health system of Belize. Because remember, we do not have enough staff.
Most of you do more than one shift, right?
Actually, we have now, most of the country has adapted to the 12-hour rotation.
Yeah.
So because prior to that, on the 8-hour rotation, most people were working 6 days a week, 16 hours a day. On two or three of the days, they would work double shifts to help the coverage. Now with the 12-hour rotation, we have persons still working 5 shifts a week to make the some departments cover. So that's 60 hours per week that are needed to cover some departments by some of the personnel. So by the nurses saying, okay, we will not take strike action. However, we are simply going to work our mandatory hours. And that is a heavy strain.
Have you done so far?
We are reaching out to our membership now, and just this morning we sent out a message that the nurses are asked to participate in the unions. We will start our industrial action by refusing to do overtime this week.
But that's more passive resistance than it would be industrial action, though, correct?
That is so. But passive resistance on the job, rather and demonstrations and participations with the rest of the public service on the streets where our days off are concerned. Because we must take a stand together with the unions. We must show solidarity in this country. We need to fix this country. And the discussion about the salary cut, to me, has taken center stage. And I would want to say that, look, our discontent is not merely the salary cut. It is a slap in the face to advise a salary cut after you promised to give us a raise or a little compensation for the work we have done. And that is a slap in the face. But it is more to fix to make the country more sustainably economic. And these ministers have gotten away, or red, blue, green, whatever the color they represent, have gotten away with more than murder in this country for 39 years, going on 40 years as an independent nation. And we, the people, need to start calling them to task. Okay, and so that is what our position is more toward. gearing for good governance, stop these mismanagement, and like the previous commenters just said, it is more to help the government do the right thing, collecting the monies outstanding to them. We have millions of dollars being owed to the country, and then you are coming out to tell the allied health personnel, you know what is true, we have to give you a cut after you struggled and help us keep the country and get the country back into shape after the pandemic spread through our borders. You are not asking that we accept a take-up.
Well, Darrell, we're grateful that you're in this conversation today because we want to get some clarity as to what the Nurses Association are hoping to be the resolution of this. We have to take a very quick break, but we do have, as we mentioned, we are joined by the president of the Public Service Union, the president of the Association of Public Service Senior Managers, the president of the Nurses Association of Belize. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to find out from them directly what will it take for this matter to be settled. That's coming up in a few minutes.
Es un hecho que puedes obtener servicios ilimitados con Smart. ¿Cansado de que se corte la línea cuando más necesitas estar conectado? Es un hecho que cuando te suscribes al plan de Smart Plus, obtienes llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Y también es un hecho que te puedes suscribir con un grupo de 5 miembros al plan Smart Share y hasta 40 miembros al plan Smart Enterprise para llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Smart tiene los verdaderos planes ilimitados. Es un hecho. Sé Smart y vive de forma Smart.
Why, Tony?
Why, kid, where you going, man?
I actually come see you because I need to buy a stack of them plastic plates and cups for my grocery shop because I run low.
Boy, I stopped importing things since April 15th, you know. And I just routed the last batch, must be about like 3 weeks back, you know.
Man, do I usually have anything? What is going on?
Check this, right? Under the new law, we ban all single-use plastics, so that the cups, plates, forks, spoons, and knives, all of that. Since April 15th, can't import none of them. Starting January 15, 2021, you can't manufacture them. April 15, 2021, you can't sell them. And after July 14, 2021, if you get catch with any other thing, you will get fined.
Me never know this. I guess I have to make some changes then. I have to make the customers know that anything not available. Anyways, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Take care.
Hello, Belize. You may not be aware of the new travel requirements set in place by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangriga, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott Rapid Test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at Make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
And welcome back. We have been joined once again by the president of the Belize National Teachers Union. You saw her on the Hallover Bridge earlier. She has now joined our panel of union representatives in our discussion this morning. Good morning once again, Senator Smith.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again.
Not a problem. So, in joining our ongoing conversation, let's get input from you, a little bit of a way in terms of what can be done for government to be able to remedy this situation and proceed from the current impasse. What is your take on perhaps measures that can be made that are practical, that would be able to see us move beyond where we are at present?
Well, as we've said before, Isani, there's a matter of the collecting of taxes, so the revenue enhancement aspect of what it is that we have been discussing. So we believe that if the government would go out, or the employees can collect those taxes, then we would be in a better place. But it seems to us that they don't want to go that route, or at least not at this time, or they prefer to use this other measure first, and then that would be like a backup. And those people are saying, listen, go that route first, one, but two, address the issues of these legislations, the asset recovery, the whistleblowers, and the illicit enrichment. Address those first, and then we can sit and we can talk about, what is needed next. And so that is where people are coming from.
Now, I had posed the question, I don't know if you were on at that time. The way this is being framed is more along the lines of what is urgent action that is necessary. That even if the solutions that are proposed, collecting on uncollected sources of revenue, those are things that will take time versus being able to cut down on the growing debt. How do you respond to that, Senator Smith?
And that is one of the problems, Marlene. We didn't get to this point overnight. This took us some years to get here. And so, yes, we cannot collect, or we may not collect all of them at one point in time, but at least we are making an effort. And so there is so much out there that can be collected in a very short period. For us to look at the salary cut as the easiest way, we are taking the easiest way out. And the easiest way is not always the best way. Because as I said earlier, they are not looking at the impact, the huge impact that this is going to have on our people. So that may be the shortest way, the fastest way, the easiest way to get some revenue.
Yeah.
But is that the best way to do it?
Now,
I know that.
Go ahead.
Marlene, you had asked me that question a bit earlier, right? And a thought came to mind when Sister Elena was answering. And like I said earlier, that our public officers are the ones who are seeing the numbers. Now, if we look at 60 persons who owe millions and millions of dollars, and I'm talking about $100 and something million, $200 and something million, right? If you collect $1 million from each person, you're already at $60 million. And these persons owe in the multitude of millions. They are not 1 million. They owe 20 million, 40 million. You understand? 11.1 million. All we have to do, collect at least 1 million from each of those 60 persons, and you are there. You have our $60 million that you are coming to us for, right? And we have far more than 60 persons. I can tell you that without batting an eye. We have far more than 60 persons who owe multi-million dollars to the government of Belize. So it's easy. Just tell them, look, pay $1 million this year and we'll work out the rest. So it's very easy. If you owe 15 million, right? I mean, come on, man. Pay 1 million this year. You understand me? So it's very easy. It's not anything that is complicated. It's not like these people are owing $50,000 and we'll have to go to a lot of people to collect these. No.
But it goes back to what you had mentioned earlier, the fact that perhaps some of these very individuals or businesses are financiers of the respective parties and now they're having a hard time going after them to collect on revenue or owed taxes if that were the case.
Yeah, exactly. That is what all our public officers are basically saying. You understand? You are sacrificing us to maintain the status quo in terms of those higher ups, right? They will continue to enjoy, and we will and then be made to suffer, right? And like Sister Elena said a while ago, that it's just taking the easy way out.
But let me come back and challenge you on that point. As a member of the public service, and I'm sure all of you, because you head up the unions, even collecting your membership fee is probably difficult. Collections in itself is work. It doesn't happen overnight. And when people have these large outstanding debts, you don't necessarily say, you get a response from them saying, all right, here's 1 million today or here's 30 million. Practically speaking, we know that is very unlikely. It doesn't mean that it's not a worthwhile venture to do. But my question to you is, again, are you looking at, would you be open, let's start there, to taking the cut for 1 year as well as seeing the more aggressive pursuit of getting back these monies? Is that something the unions would be open to?
Marlene, may I inject one quick comment there? Using that same analogy that you gave, that yes, we do have difficulties even collecting dues from our members. That difficult collection is always a problem. There are always some little bottlenecks. However, what the government is doing is basically coming back to the membership and say, okay, for those who are paying, let's raise your dues by $5 to compensate for those that aren't paying. And that is fundamentally wrong. That is morally wrong. And that is the position of the nurses. We are not saying a salary cut is absolutely not going to happen anytime, but do the other things first. Collect these taxes. Sign on to the laws, enact the laws that make these persons that are pillaging our country responsible and liable. And then you can come and say, okay, Mr. Spencer, please go back to your union because we've done all that we could and we literally cannot find $60 million more. Then you can come and talk to me. And I am a Belizean. I want to be a providing Belizean towards a stable economy. I would look at you and say, okay, let's see the numbers. And if the numbers say that to make this thing perfectly polished, I would have to take a 10 or 15% cut or whatever it is, then we can negotiate that at that point in time. But for the government to do it is like the good lady just said, for the government to do it right now is without initiative, it is lazy and it is easy. And that is why they are doing it. Because the easiest persons to collect from are the poor.
We are basically saying that let's exhaust all options that may be there for us to be able to collect this revenue as opposed to turning first of all to where it is easier.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Let's do all the things because I liken what is happening to a family with a member with a drug problem. If somebody starts selling stuff from your house and giving away stuff from your house to provide themselves with their habits, with their drugs, you don't go quickly and buy a new fan. You deal with the sprung head man. You don't go and buy a prettier iron. You don't buy a more expensive iron. You don't keep. You'd have to deal with the drug problem. And our government is that sprung head.
But let me ask a question here about the current impasse. So on Friday, you met with the government representatives. It seems from what you have communicated so far that they are saying we must proceed with the salary cut. Are the actions that are being taken now to remove the salary cut off the table?
Well, I want to hope that all that we are doing is to remove the salary cut off the table. And I will always repeat, sorry to be hogging the conversation.
No, that's fine.
I will always repeat that it is not merely about the salary cut. the salary cut is significant, yes, because things are expensive. Marlene, I am a professional, and I am a professional, have been working in the ministry for 9th of September this year will be 30 years. And as a professional, you're finding it difficult for ends to meet. That is unheard of in any sense of in any industrialized country, in any country at all, where a professional has difficulty making their commitments, meeting their commitments. Like I said, believe the 1,000 or so nurses across this country, the population is so small that it can be absorbed in a variety of little countries around the world. And you are really squeezing the nurses. You are frustrating the nurses, and to go out and say, no, apart from your salary being so super low for a professional, and we are not providing you with anything because the government doesn't say, okay, you're a nurse, here is a piece of land, or here is a loan for a low interest loan for a mortgage to put a house so that you can afford to survive. We don't get any of those benefits from the country. Why then are people who are getting all the tax exemption, all the fancy trimmings, those are the persons that's supposed to be paying, man?
So for you as a Nurses Association, you want the salary cut off the table. Go ahead, Senator Smith.
No, I think we have to also look at the fact too, Marlene, that the government was quick to show us or to indicate to us that, listen, we can use the Constitution to do what we want to do. How is it that they can't use the law to get these persons who owe the government to pay what they owe? But as was said earlier, we are easy targets. They pay us, they have access to all of that. But the persons or some of them might be persons who supported them. And you don't want to go after your own. But you are going to now use the law against us to say, well, we need this and you must pay this. So again, our teachers are saying, listen, no, we are not going to accept any cut. We can't afford any cut, and you must do put these other measures in place. Because for too long now, we have been standing up and we have been saying to our government, whether red or whether blue, the BNTU has been out there against both parties to say to them, listen, nothing will change if we do not address the matters of good governance. And we are seeing it, that when we only touch one aspect of good governance, we signed on to UNCAC and that was it. Has anything changed? No. Government changed again, and that party comes in. What are they going to do to ensure that we don't get back to this point again? Because we have to stop this nonsense about writing off for our friends and cronies, giving tax breaks. We have to stop that, because those people who can afford are not paying their dues, but those of us who are barely surviving are the ones who must suffer because of what it is that they are not doing. And that's the unfair part that poor people are not accepting.
So let's tackle, well, okay, let me get some more clarity on this. So for Gerald and for the PSU and the APSSM, from what you've communicated before, you said you are open to a salary cut if certain conditions are met. How do you get a solution when collectively your perspectives are different? Sharon?
Marlene, that is an interesting question, because we are in this together, so that even though the position has been where the persons who I represent was saying, we can't afford it, but if that is what it takes, we're prepared to look at it. If it is, they put in compensation was also brought on the table, so that my members now are saying adequate compensation. But I will tell you that that wasn't even important to them. They're prepared to have made the sacrifices if the government showed that they were serious about all of this. And we're still at the point where we don't feel that the government is serious about making the changes so that we are not back in the same place 5 years from now, so that we are not fundamentally different as unions and the position that we're putting out. There might be a little variation, as I said earlier, but the variation is not such that there is that vast difference in positions that we're taking as joint unions. So while it is that PSU and BNTU probably not even looking at compensation as a way to fix this, or at least to change the positional view that both sides seems to have taken, the situation is that I think that if the government had decided from the beginning to put forward some good faith measures in terms of making the necessary changes, putting in the whistleblowers, putting in things, members would have seen things different. They would have seen that this group has come in, they're adamant about making changes, they're putting in the necessary measures. I will tell you, UNCAC is not easy to implement. Even signing on means you have to put in the necessary legislation, you have to put in the infrastructure, and we know that it can't happen overnight. We know it can't happen overnight. Let me just say that. But if there were a move afoot to say, let us move towards implementation, putting in the legislation, you could go back to member and say, listen to me, this is what they've done. See, they've shared a draft for us to look at. So they're moving towards good governance. They're moving towards recovering of assets that have gone. Because see, we have something in hand. But honestly, we have nothing in hand. And all we are hearing is we need $80 million. And I don't want to, for the public, for you and Hisani and the public, to run away from the fact that we initially had agreed, okay, fine, we'll give you no 20 million in terms of being amenable to the wage free, to the increment freeze. We had done so under the past administration. And I don't think that people realize you said, okay, how are you willing to compromise? You asked earlier, Marlene. Yes. But we have already compromised. We have already said increment freeze, we don't know. 1 year in the initial stage, we go back, we revisit, right? But people are behaving as if we have done nothing. We've done absolutely nothing. That is how they're behaving. So and I want to also put into this scenario, if you just allow me just a little bit more, that taking 10%, and I am sticking to 10%, right? Taking 10% would mean that immediately taxes that are gotten on a PAYE through public officers and teachers will drop, because it means that in fact persons who had gone over the threshold to pay taxes will be pushed down. In addition, those who are paying, remember, you pay tax as you earn. You take away 10%, it means that the taxes you pay will be reduced by, one can deduce by 10% based on what you're taking away from public officers and teachers, right? So it has other ripple effect that I don't think that the government has considered, or maybe they don't care. It is just about that immediate fix. I will just take away their salary, whether they agree or not. And that is how I saw that letter of April 13. I know the minister made every attempt to try to clarify, but that is how I still see that letter. Whether you agree or not, we will take that cut.
Would you describe it then as perhaps high-handed?
Well, I don't see how else what other conclusion you can come to. Yes, the provisions have always been there, but in my 33 years in the public service, I've never known of any minister of public service to send us public officers a constitutional letter to say that if you don't agree to this, this is what I'm going to do under the provisions under the section in the Constitution that makes it okay for me to advise the Governor General. I've never, for 33 years, so that provision have ever been used and then thrown in our face. You understand? So while it is, I will not sit here and tell you that there wasn't some clarification or attempt to clarify the whole issue. It is obvious that a constitutional lawyer might have had a hand in all of that, in writing that letter, and as one of my colleagues have said, kudos. They really pushed us now with our backs against the wall, right? Because how do you fight that? How do you fight the Constitution saying that the Minister of Public Service can set our salary, whether we agree or not? When I thought that you're moving forward and you move into a situation where there are union representatives and you'd want to ensure that there is some negotiation, not consultation. The Constitution talks about consultation, which means it doesn't matter what I say, it doesn't matter what Sister Elena says, it doesn't matter what Gerald Henry says, it doesn't matter what Darrell Spencer says.
Essentially, you've been informed is what the consultation would be.
Yes, and they have. I cannot say they have not been consulting. I cannot say that. We've had several meetings, we've had several exchanges, so it would more than likely satisfy the definition of consultation. What may be questionable is whether it was done in good faith or reasonable, because if it is that their situation and what they're putting was what they meant from the beginning, then what is the point? But it's going to be hard for us to prove any of that, right? But they came to the table positional as opposed to negotiation. Even when we asked that question, because I know Sister Elena asked that question point blank as to whether or not we were negotiating. In this day and age, looking at employers, employees, the issue has been that it is always best to go in as equal bargaining units, bargaining power, where it is you do negotiation so that we come out and everybody, maybe you're not happy because with negotiation you get some, you lose some.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that we have been, it seemed we were destined to lose from the beginning. And now the letter of April 13 has confirmed our position that we were destined to lose part of our salary from the beginning, because now they pull out that constitutional provision.
Many people who are observing this process feel perhaps that the salary cuts are a foregone conclusion. As you said in the letter, the minister has the authority under the Constitution to go ahead and make the changes. So my question is, from the union standpoint, the budget debate takes place on Thursday and Friday. The current the presentation by Prime Minister Briceño includes the salary cuts. How optimistic are you that you will be able to influence any sort of change within the coming week?
Well, Marlene, I'm hoping that they will listen, that they will observe that it is not that we are trying to be unreasonable. I've told you what the representation coming from APSSM is, and we have been behaving and responsibly, right? So listen to the people, listen to what they're saying, look and see what the action is. It can't be that you remain positional. Listen and at least make some effort to show the same people who are doing collections, the same people who you will have to depend on. Those are the people that you're squeezing, that you're putting your foot on. This is almost like what the gentleman name is. The boots are at our necks at this point.
Yeah.
You will end up having people not being able to breathe.
Yeah, Floyd.
Floyd.
I think, yeah.
It would seem as if though the government, however, seems intent on steamrolling the unions to proceed with its plans.
But I think to add to what Sister Sharon said just now, when we are looking at matters of addressing salaries, those kinds of matters come via negotiations. You don't address a salary cut through a consultation. So from the beginning, that is why we were trying to get very clear what it is that we were doing, because coming to us, consulting on a salary cut, as opposed to negotiating, as Sharon said, came across from the beginning as if though that was your position and that would not have changed. And so if that is their position and they will not change that, then we remain the same. Then our position remains the same. We are not going to change our position and we will continue to fight. Because at some point in time, there has to be some consideration. As Sister Sharon said, they are not listening. And the more it is that they put out there in the way that they're putting it out there in terms of, say, we have been talking about a 10% all along, and then suddenly, just days before, because right now this is a rush to get a response in time for Thursday's discussion, and you come and you put before us a different proposal from what was placed before, then that's not good faith. So we can definitely argue that we have not been acting, we have not been consulting their word in good faith because of the approach that you use. So again, our people have said to us in no uncertain terms, we are not backing down from this. We will not back down from this, and we will not allow the government to use the Constitution to intimidate us into accepting a cut that we can't afford without even putting in place these good governance measures before even considering those kinds of measures.
In a nutshell, the outcome would have already been predetermined. It was only a matter of consulting with you guys as a matter of formality.
Just to satisfy the law.
It seems so. Just so that they can send us that letter and say, based on the Constitution, we have consulted and so we will do this now. That is how it is coming across now, despite the fact that in the meetings, that was not what was being told to us. In those meetings, it was coming across from those persons, well, yes, man, we talk, we negotiate, because the word negotiate was even used in one of the meetings. And then here we are getting a letter to say, well, this is my authority that I have, and I'm going to use my authority. That's not good faith. That will make matters even worse.
Yeah, and I wanted to state that well, Brother Spencer is in the meeting today representing the nurses, but I just wanted to remind you all that we also have the NTUCB that is with us on this issue now, and the joint unions would definitely like to remind the nation that our advocacy of late and in recent past has always been for good governance, right? And so being a member of NTUCB, I would say that I have a direct voice of the NTUCB and the joint unions, that in our media appearances, we have consistently engaged the partners within the country and abroad in the diaspora to value their roles and responsibilities, right? As invaluable stakeholders. Yes, brother?
If you'll allow me to kind of take this opportunity, since you're speaking on the broader umbrella organization, what has been your perspective, what has been your take on the matter that took place on Thursday involving the Commission of Inquiry and the seat that the NTUCB president holds on that panel?
Well, as was stated, no, we are the ones who called for that Commission of Inquiry, being PSU. Brother Luke is the president of the NTUCB, but he's also a PSU executive member, right? And so he represents actually the Public Service Union on that commission. And it seemed to be to us now, after we discussed the recent activities and the recent actions of the government as it relates to assets of the country, that we are having this commission about sales of assets, and then while we're having this inquiry, you're pretty much doing the very same thing. So nothing will come out of that, because then you certainly will not hold anyone accountable after that commission is over. Why? Because you're doing the same thing too, right? So in order for you to hold those persons in the previous administration accountable, it stands to mean that you would have to then now also hold yourself accountable for doing the very same thing. And that won't happen, right? And so we saw it as, I think Brother Luke said the word as a mockery, right? And a disrespect to us and pretty much as a show. And so we were not happy to be a part of that. We don't want to be taken as fools. And so we decided that, you know what, we have to there has to be some outcome from this issue. We don't see that there will be any outcome other than just calling out names and scandaling individuals. There has to be something done to stop the bleeding that takes place in government. And that is the reason why we call the commission. We asked for that commission. And there are several other topics that we would want to certainly bring to the public's attention in maybe other inquiries. But this one isn't encouraging at all. You know, so we had to take that decision.
Let's get the opinions of the other members of this discussion. Perhaps something from Senator Smith in regards to what she took away from what transpired on Thursday.
Well, I believe Brother Luke was again, putting forth to the public what is happening right now, and so that the public can understand that here we are, as Brother Henry said, here we are, addressing this matter right now of what had happened in the previous administration, but here we are and the same thing is happening. Nothing seemed to be changing. So it is, for us, it's important that we make the public aware of what is going on, because as we said, the previous government spoke a lot about good governance, and cutting off the head of corruption and all of those things, and then this administration now, the party that is now in, came in under that same mantra that, it's going to be different and we are going to be doing things differently, and it's about good governance and all of these things, accountability and so, but yet we see that is not what is happening on the ground. So your manifesto, your pledge to the Belizean people and your actions are not matching. So for me, I believe that Brother Luke thought that was the opportune time for us as unions and PSU particular to present to the nation what is happening so that people can be aware.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about what happens moving forward. And I want to get...
1 second.
Yes, go ahead.
One quick
you want to weigh in?
If I can.
No, of course, go ahead.
What Senator Smith said just now is exactly what's happening. You remember, we can recall, if our memory serves us, that earlier in the Barrow administration, there were commissions of inquiry. Nothing happened. Later on in the administration, commission of inquiry, nothing happened. Nobody was held legally liable. Now this one, the same thing is happening. In my opinion, all these commissions of inquiries are nothing more than a circus act. They're entertainment purposes, where they come out and they laugh in our faces, and we see how all these people conspired to rip the country off. And no government will put a stop to it, because like the good Prime Minister said last week in his interview with Jules, come on, we only have 4 months in the administration. You have to wait 2 years down the road. So to do the right thing takes you 2 years. I think with the manifesto that you presented to the people, where the people gave you a mandate to go and fix the country's problem, for you to come and tell the country, by the way, let me just rape you for 2 more years, and then you could come and tell me that you're raping me. No, man. To do the right thing could have begun the day after they won the election, and it could have begun with the Prime Minister should have taken a stance from the night when they knew that they had garnered victory, and tell people, look, this circus that usually happens where we go and bombard the offices and throw people out of the offices, I am now in charge, and this is the first act as a prime minister, as a responsible prime minister, that will show me that I show the country that we are going to do things differently. This is the first act. Look, I will not condone people going and bombarding the offices and insulting public officers and dragging them out of their office and breaking up the office. That is a thing that we had as tradition, and something is wrong with our country because you don't have to tease the loser, man. You do not have to abuse the loser. I mean, they gracefully exited. Give them a chance to do that. And that, from when I saw that, I knew that this administration was about the same thing that they're all about. Because if you could not control your people from day one, and then for you to come in April now and say, oh, by the way, we're only here 4 months, don't judge us yet. Look, those planes that you sold could have been a good step. Show the country that you are going to do. Look, the laws surround these things that they should go to tender. These laws are already in place. So Johnny and the administration don't have to enact these laws. All that they need to do is administer common sense and legal steps. The laws are there, but they do whatever they want because they are the government. And then to come to me and tell me, no, you cannot judge me after 4 months. Look, doing the right thing starts from day one. I'm not telling you have to solve the country's economic crisis in 4 months. Yeah. That will happen down the road. We all could, and we will all participate. If you show me that you are willing to do the right thing, Mr. Prime Minister, then we can sit and we can negotiate. Okay, we're doing the right thing, but we still need to find this monies and this monies and this monies because the purse tight. Come to me at that point in time. But you not continue to pillage the country and look for the laziest, easiest way to get $60 million. That is what we're against.
Mm-hmm. And as you said before, Daryl, the Nurses Association has already indicated that you are willing to join into some of the actions that are planned, starting with what is called work to rule, basically doing only what is necessary during your work hours. Is that feasible for the Nurses Association? I know that's one of the things. People have for so long not recognized how serious the shortage of nurses is in this country. And it's not unique to Belize, it's all over the world, but when we're the ones who are least competitive, we have it harder than the rest. So talk about the possibilities there.
All right, and that is a strong point. And let's discuss in the first instance how change happens, because the nurses, by taking their actions or inactions, will not make the change, but they will cause the change to become in effect. What should happen is that the nurse, by not doing all of these little things, the public is more dissatisfied, and the public then
all right, we're having a bit of a freeze there at this time. Hopefully we can get him back to be able to complete. All right, there. Sorry, Daryl, we missed that response. Can you just quickly summarize it?
What I was saying, Marlene, is just that by the nurses taking a step back from all these little things and doing a work to rule, it puts the public becomes more dissatisfied, and the public turns to the ministry. Look, we cannot deal with this. Our health is in jeopardy, and we want you to work with the nurses. That is the whole idea of this work to rule. It's not that the nurse will come out one day and they will say, and then the government will change. Martin Luther King, all the great persons that effected change, the sacrifices were over a period of years. And if I would hope that our government do not delay for years to have the people suffering for years, more than we have been suffering, as a matter of fact, and then decide, you know what, we absolutely have to do this thing. Remember, good governance and doing the right thing can start today. You don't have to plan to do the right thing tomorrow. You can start doing the right thing from today.
Yeah. Can I get President Smith to weigh in here? We saw the picketing on Friday. We know the PSU is currently, they've issued their trade dispute notice. They're working to rule. The teachers and the PSU had their 15-minute demonstration this morning. Senator Smith, the teachers have the most experience with this. When you sat out for 11 days out of school, you faced every possible criticism from teachers, from the public, from government. You faced actual salary cuts because at some point they were not paying you because you weren't in the classroom. This time around, does the union have the same resilience to push forward until you get your demands met?
Well, that is the response that we received from our members, Marlene, that we have done it before and we are going to do it again. Because as we keep saying, this is not just about the cut. This is about our country. And if it is that we have to go for 15 days this time, then that is what our teachers are prepared to do. The money that we have received from our membership is that we are in it for the long run. We are not giving up. And as I said, as time goes by and more things happen, you know, in terms of these letters from government and the stance that they are taking, it just irritates our teachers more, and it pushes them. It gives them that push, if you will. It allows them. It makes them realize that I have no choice but to stand up, because if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. So from our standpoint, we are prepared, we are ready, we are willing, and our people say, let's go until we have what it is that we are asking for. We have to address the matters of good governance, and we must also address the matter of the cut, because our people cannot, in no way cannot afford. I keep saying that every time we talk about persons who have lost their jobs or who have lost their salaries out there, we say it in a way as if though some of those persons are not our relatives as well. We keep forgetting that, is as if though the unions are separate and apart from those persons who have lost jobs or who have lost a part of their salaries. Those persons are our spouses, our children, our family members, and many of us have to now be assisting our family members because of that. So we are feeling it too, and to cut us some more, we will feel it even worse. So again, I don't know how else to say it, but what our teachers have said to us, we are moving forward. If you want to say adelante, whatever word you want to use, this is forward moving. We shall not be moved, has been their chant, and we have to abide by that.
Now, President Henry, the PSU has issued a circular where there is a notice of protest on the day of the budget debate itself, on rotation and within our social gathering sizes. Tell us a bit more about what you hope to be able to achieve during this time.
It's all a part of the entire process of getting the government to listen to us. And so it's essentially to stick a point exactly at the point where the government is looking at the budget. We believe that is when there will be most attention paid. And so that is when we decided that we are going to also take another form of action as it relates to the industrial actions. So it's just a part of the entire process, as I said, Marlene, to get the government to see that public officers are now Also on the move, we are also very much upset with the way that the government has been treating us. We have reported back to our membership exactly what the positions are and how we have reached to this point. So our membership are very much aware of the fact that we have been essentially disrespected and we have been railroaded on this issue because we feel as if though we have not been treated with fairness now. I can say that PSU, as far as I can see, based on our results, are now very much agitated, and we are going to be showing our force in the upcoming days.
And a written response will be delivered to the government today?
Yes, that is our intention as joint unions to produce that written result to the government of Belize a bit later on today, and to inform them of the position that the joint unions are taking on the letter that we received.
All right. Well, thank you all for weighing in on the conversation this morning. We do appreciate the update and we keep on following. Stay safe.
Thank you for having us, Marlene.
Thank you for having us too, Marlene.
All right.
Can I just take 1 second to quickly say thank you to the police officers who are out there, who have been out there with us, today, ensuring that, everything went well and there was no incident during our protest this morning.
All right. Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back in a few.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Foltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Foltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
You've worked hard your whole life building your future, your family, your business, your home. And when you aren't around to safeguard your most beloved assets, you are at ease because you know they are protected by RF&G Insurance. For over 50 years, RF&G has been making sure business owners get back to work after an accident, and families get back into their homes quickly after a natural disaster. At RF&G, it's you who matters most. Visit us today and learn why it pays to get it right. RF&G Insurance, a Rowe Group company.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. We are stronger together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
2020 taught us the importance of being connected to the virtual world, and NextGen is here to keep its commitment to you. Even if you're physically apart, NextGen keeps you digitally connected.
Okay everyone, thank you for following me today.
NextGen provides more than just an internet plan. They provide service plans that support all your online needs. Sign up today and get your NextGen's ultra high-speed internet service. NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
Currently, we're using Smart Elite Vibe calling plan. We use it interbranch, we use it to call outside, and we also use it to call international. It's far cheaper than what we used to have before. Our equipment are new, PBX box is new. So the PBX is very good because I can call to my Sartaneja branch, I can call to my Kikaka branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBX. Actually right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. There's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. But that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
We're back, and we want to say thank you for tuning in today.
Quite an extended conversation this morning on all things union and all things related to the pending salary cut for teachers and public officers.
Of course, and I'm sure everyone is aware at this point. We woke up this morning with traffic lines across the country as the unions, they staged a protest for 15 minutes at the main thoroughfares. And we'll have more on what happened in our newscast tonight at 6 p.m. tonight. We'll hear more from the unions. They are to respond to government today via letter and make their position clear. At this point, there still is no immediate solution in sight. A compromise is what the hope is for us to calm things down, but we will keep on following it and we will keep you updated, right? That's all the time we have, though. If you want to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5believes.com. You can find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYE Believes. Remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, please.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.